We were left disappointed with how the 2024 draft was shaping up, but it feels like it's going to be a completely different story this year with the 2025 NBA draft. And for today's video, I just want to sit down, talk with you guys about this upcoming NBA draft, the guys at the top, the guys at the middle, and some guys that I really like that are sleepers right now. And also what's at stake for some of the teams that are going to be drafting this high in the draft, because we have teams like we expected to be some of the worst teams in the league, like the Washington Wizards and the Utah Jazz and the Portland Trailblazers, but there may also be some unexpected teams that are going to be picking in the lottery as well. And a bunch of teams have also traded out their first round picks a couple years ago that may come back to bite them in this upcoming draft. And if you have any takes about the 2025 draft, please stop right now and give me them in the comments below. So in 2023, we had a clear #1 overall pick throughout the whole collegiate and international season in Victor Wembanyama. Last year, it was a completely different story because at times it was Alex Sarr or Zachary Sachet, even Cody Williams was looked at as the top guy at the start of the collegiate season. And this year, there's been so much hype around Cooper Flagg at Duke, and right now he's still my #1 player in this upcoming draft, but you got to give some love to what Dylan Harper is doing at Rutgers right now. But I still think Cooper Flagg would go #1 today. Maybe if a team was looking for a lead guard, and obviously Dylan Harper has the modern size for a guard that could excel at the NBA level today, they may look at him to go with #1. But Cooper Flagg, I think, has been such a defensive stud this year at Duke. I know his offensive numbers maybe haven't lived up to expectations, because so far on the season, Cooper Flagg is averaging 16 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists a night for the Blue Devils. He's shooting, though, 42% from the field, 25% from three, and 75% from the line. You would like for Cooper Flagg to be a little bit better as a shooter right now. I think the free throw release is fine, and the form is also fine, where I believe maybe not at first Cooper Flagg is going to be a good, consistent shooter at the NBA level, but I do think that's going to eventually come. And someone that could dribble like Cooper Flagg can at 6'9", and the way he could play defense, how valuable is a modern day stretch four that could also play make in this league? We know how valuable guys like Draymond Green were at their peak, or like Jaren Jackson Jr. right now, or Scotty Barnes, Paolo Banchero, Pascal Siakam. Now, I don't know if Cooper Flagg is going to be better offensively than some of those guys, but he's got great defensive instincts for somebody that just turned 18 years old last week. So he has so much time to grow in this league, and if his offensive game develops as we expect it to, he's going to be such an elite two-way player by the time he's 20, 21 years old, as long as he's in the right development system. Like, I wonder if a team like Washington would look at Cooper Flagg with the #1 overall pick when they have Bilal Coulibaly and some wings right now, and they could look for a true point guard, and that could be in Dylan Harper. But I do think Cooper Flagg would go #1 to a lot of teams right now because of what he could do as an on-ball defender, as an off-ball defender, and I think he's going to be projected to be an offensive player in this league that may not be a #1 on a championship team one day. I always thought those were high aspirations and expectations for Cooper Flagg, but I do think he could develop enough to be a good #2 or #3 with good size, good defense, and good secondary scoring ability. Now, the other player that I just talked about a little bit is Dylan Harper. We got to talk about the 6'6" guard at Rutgers right now that has been arguably the best freshman in the country and one of the best collegiate players overall. He's going to get some Wooden Award nominations for somebody that's a freshman this year for a school like Rutgers. So far this year, throughout 12 games, he's averaging 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. He's shooting 52% from the field, 34.5% from three, and 75% from the line. And like I mentioned, he's 6'6". He has an incredible handle. He's hit a game winner so far this year as well against Seton Hall, and he has great dribble moves up and down the floor. He's got a great in and out, a great crossover for somebody that is as young as Dylan Harper. He's a good rebounder. He's a good playmaker. I don't know if he's going to be a true floor general that's going to average 9, 10, 11 assists one day, but I do think he can average in that sweet spot of 6 to 8 assists per game. He could play the 1. He could also play the 2 because he could be a primary scorer at first, and he can also do that without the ball in his hands, where I think he could excel at the NBA level. Some teams that are picking high may not have a true point guard on their team or their top guard going forward. Like Washington, as much as I love Bob Carrington, I don't know if he's their franchise point guard. For Toronto, you have Emmanuel Quickley, and I think RJ Barrett could be a true small forward, so I think and believe Dylan Harper could play adjacent to Emmanuel Quickley in that backcourt. I think he could play alongside LaMelo Ball in Charlotte. He could play alongside Keontae George in Utah. There are so many fits for Dylan Harper at the top of this NBA draft, and I do believe right now we are the most we've ever been to somebody not named Cooper Flagg going #1 overall in this draft, just the way Dylan Harper has been playing. And he started off this year against lower tier opponents like Wagner, St. Peter's, Monmouth, Merrimack, and Kennesaw State. But if you look at his last 7 games, where Rutgers is 3-4, but they've gone up against really good teams like Alabama, Texas A&M, Penn State, Ohio State, in those 7, he's averaging 26 points per game, 3.5 assists, 4.5 rebounds, 50% from the field, 37% from three, a 61% true shooting percentage in his last 7 games. And I have a feeling just scouts around this league are just going to love Dylan Harper. And I think it's just going to be fun if we have a debate all year long between Cooper Flagg and Dylan Harper going #1 overall. It's nice when we have a top end prospect like we've seen in the past with Cade Cunningham, Victor Wembanyama, but I think years that it was really exciting, like 2020 with the Anthony Edwards versus Wiseman-LaMelo debate, or in 2022 between Paolo, Chet, and Jabari Smith for the #1 pick, it could get really exciting this year with Dylan Harper versus Cooper Flagg. And I want to talk about Dylan Harper's teammate at Rutgers right now, Ace Bailey, because a lot of people thought preseason Ace Bailey probably had the best chance to dethrone Cooper Flagg and get that #1 overall pick himself. But I think so far this year, we're seeing the strengths of Ace Bailey's game, but we're also seeing the weaknesses, because Ace Bailey so far this year is averaging 17.5 points, 7.5 rebounds, but just 0.7 assists a night. Yeah, 0.7 assists, a steal, and block a night. He's shooting 45% from the field, 33% from three, but 62% from the free throw line, and he really struggles at getting to the rim. There's times where Ace Bailey, even against smaller or slower defenders, struggles to get by them and has to take these contested pull-up jumpers or fadeaway jumpers, and they go in. He hits some big-time shots that way, but it's a little concerning that he can't get to the rim for somebody that is 6'10", and he's got a really good ball handle as well. So that's something he definitely needs to work on over the course of Big Ten play that's going to be coming up for Rutgers this year, and he definitely needs to work on his playmaking ability as well, because he can hit these really tough pull-up jumpers and these three-point shots that are definitely impressive. And I think Ace Bailey is the lock-in 3rd overall pick right now. I want to see him get to the rim more, and I gotta see his playmaking get up, because he has tunnel vision right now, and that's not going to fly for a lot of teams at the NBA level. I just think he can get lost in the shuffle, especially if he's going to some teams where he's not going to be the #1, 2, 3, or even 4 scoring option right away. Now I want to talk about some fun combo guard slash wing risers this year that have come from overseas to collegiate basketball. First one is Igor Demin over at BYU, and Demin has been very fun to watch so far for the Cougars this year. So far, the 19-year-old, who is 6'9", he's got a great ball handle, is averaging 13 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 6 assists a night. He's shooting 49% from the field, 38% from three. He is struggling from the free throw line at around 68%, but I do like his defense. He's got great court vision right now, and I think Igor Demin could be a very exciting prospect because of his size, his length, his potential on the defensive end of the floor, and I feel like he could fit in any modern day offense because he knows when to make the extra pass, he could beat defenders off the dribble, and he's projected to be a plus shooter in this league. So just having the size, the handle, the passing ability, and the shooting ability is going to make him a very intriguing prospect at the top of this draft. And the other prospect that's similar to Igor Demin coming overseas, has size, and can do a bunch of things well is Kasparas Jakushanis over at Illinois. So far this year, throughout 10 games, Jakushanis is averaging 16 points, 6 rebounds, and 5.5 assists. He's shooting 47% from the field, 42% from three, and 84% from the line. So he's been a little bit more efficient than Demin so far this season, and he's also been an extremely well-off playmaker for someone that is just a freshman this year at Illinois. And I really like the way he plays. He can slow the game down, and he can also play very well in transition. I think Illinois has been a ton of fun to watch this year. They're in competitive games, and I think Jakushanis stands out as somebody that could definitely be in consideration for a top 5 pick in this upcoming draft. Next up, I want to talk about some guys that could be in that Grady Dick or Reed Shepherd roles in this draft, and those are the pure shooters. First one is Lee McNeely over at UConn. He originally committed to Indiana, decommitted, and I think it's been great for his development so far under Dan Hurley as a Husky. This year, he's averaging 14 points, 5.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists. He's shooting 38% from three and 84% from the line. He's also taking around 5 threes a night, and I don't know if he's going to be a great defender in this league, but he plays hard, he hustles, he can get rebounds as well, he can hit the glass because he is 6'7", and he can get up there, and I think he could be a good complementary piece in a highly tempo offense. Another good shooter that started off really well this year for Duke, he's a teammate of Cooper Flagg, but he's kind of slowed down a little bit as of late, is Con Knipple. And Knipple so far this year is averaging 12 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists, but he's got good size, good strength, good lateral quickness, especially on the defensive end of the floor. He's shooting 43% from the field, 34% from three, but 95% from the free throw line. I think that is going to translate very well to the NBA level, and Con Knipple could be an impactful shooter right away. And I think if you're looking for somebody that has a high floor, and I think that is just going to be a good role player at the bare minimum, Con Knipple is where to look. And if you're also looking for some other shooters in the 2025 draft that I think have higher upside than McNeely and Con Knipple as more well-balanced scorers that that could score at the rim, have a good mid-range, and a good three-point shot. You got to look at Trey Johnson at Texas. He has definitely risen up draft boards so far this year. The freshman has been great out of the gate. You could also look at Ian Jackson for the UNC Tar Heels. He's been a little bit more involved in the offense as of late, and I think he's got the potential to be a good scorer at the NBA level. And then Kasparas Jakuchanis' teammate at Illinois, Will Riley, he also didn't have the highest expectations going into his freshman year, and he's been off to a good start. Guys that have potentially been falling a little bit since the season has started, I think the first guy that comes to mind is VJ Edgecombe, who was a consensus top 5 projected pick, who's currently playing at Baylor right now, and he has struggled with his efficiency this year. He's shooting 41% from the field on around 10 shots a night, 26% from 3 on around 4 threes a night, 63% from the free throw line as well. He's averaging 12 points, 3 assists, 6 rebounds, 2.5 steals though, and 1.5 blocks. And Edgecombe has crazy athleticism, and I think he could just be a winning player in terms of plays that just don't really show up in the box score. When I watch him, he definitely sticks out on your screen just because of his athleticism, the way he can run up and down the floor. But if the efficiency doesn't translate to the NBA level, he's gonna have to redefine on what he is, because at Lehigh, he's a top scoring option. He expected to be that at Baylor this year, and when you get to the NBA level, guys like Jalen Suggs, I think Cam Reddish, and Isaac Okoro, they gotta learn their roles in this league. They gotta realize that they're not gonna be a top scoring option on their team, and they gotta redefine on what they are as prospects, and maybe Edgecombe is gonna be on that path as well. Nolan Traore over in France, who is probably going at Dylan Harper as the top point guard prospect in the draft, is definitely fallen down some draft boards right now, and he's played around 13 games over in France this year for St. Quentin. He's shooting 34% from the field, 23% from 3, averaging 5 assists and 10.5 points. He definitely needs to work on his efficiency. I love his first step. He can get to the rim, but he's struggling at finishing inside, but I'm not out on him as a prospect yet. And lastly, I want to talk about some sleepers so far that I think you should know about for this upcoming draft. First off, I want to talk about LeBaron Philon over at Alabama. He's been a very crafty scoring guard so far this year for the Crimson Tide. And all eyes were going to be on Mark Sears this year. He was going to be in the Wooden Award conversation, but LeBaron has been averaging 12 points, shooting 54% from the field this year, 3.5 assists, 4 rebounds, and I think he's somebody that was not even on most people's radars as a round 1 or round 2 pick. Now there's a good chance he can go in round 1. I think people also need to know who Rasheer Fleming is, who's currently playing at St. Joe's in the Atlantic 10. And Fleming this year in 12 games has been an absolute bucket. 16.5 points, 56% from the field, 40% from 3. He's also averaging 8.8 rebounds, 1.6 blocks, and 1.8 steals. I think he could be a winning, contributing player right away. And if he goes at the end of the first round, most likely he's going to go to a good team. And I'd love to see him in the playoffs in the 2026 NBA season, because I think he could be an impact player right away, kind of like what Christian Brown was for the Nuggets in 2023. And the last sleeper I want to give you is Jeremiah Fears, who's currently playing at Oklahoma. And the freshman so far this year in 11 games is averaging 18 points, 3.5 rebounds, and 4.5 assists a night. He's shooting 50% from the field, 34% from 3, 86% from the free throw line. He's also averaging 2.3 steals, and he's going to be efficient. He can get to the rim, and he can shoot the lights out. I think he's going to be a very intriguing prospect that could definitely go in the lottery in June. So that is going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know your thoughts, opinions, or takes on the 2025 NBA draft down below. If you did enjoy this video, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.